Ariel over here. Today I want to talk about my little fan here, which right now is still cold for just a sec. You can see I just lit the fire. It is spring here at my tiny house, but today is kind of just damp and gray. It has actually been raining all day, which is awesome for the garden and not so great for doing outside work. So I'm working on some inside projects and it's just a little damp and chilly, so I thought lighting up the fireplace would be just kind of comfortable today, even though I wouldn't really need it. It's like 50 something degrees outside, so it's not that cold. But I wanted to do this partly because several of you have noticed this fan in the background on some of my other videos and asked about it. This little guy, I'll have to put some pictures in to really show you because it's so black it's hard to see in a video. But it's a non-electric, well, it actually makes its own electricity. It doesn't require plugging into anything to work. So it's off. I think when I've timed this before, it takes about 4 minutes after lighting the wood stove for it to start working. But the general principle is that the wood stove, it's getting too hot to touch now. I can feel the heat there. The wood stove heats the base part. Then there's a little gap there with something in it that I don't understand. And then there's the top fan part that disperses the heat is cooler. And something about the temperature change in between there, and I'm sure somebody could give me a technical explanation of how this works. Something in between there generates a little electrical current, which is going to turn that fan blade. So obviously this is not a fan that you would use to cool your house down in the summertime, because it's not going to work if it's not on something very directly hot like a wood stove. But if you do want to move air currents around your house in the winter, it can be nice. Now, obviously my house is super tiny, and so most of the time the air moves around, you know, without any big issue, but it can be nice to have the fan. And this is the smallest fan model they make. I'll link it down below, but I think they've got a medium and maybe a large and an extra large size. So if you had a little bigger house and a bigger stove and were trying to move air to more distant corners, you might want to get a little bit larger fan. But this more than adequately blows air around to all the corners of my house, especially because, like I said, I didn't have a big problem with that in the first place. But it also works as like a little bit of a temperature gauge, because as this heats up, there it's already starting, you can just see it start moving. It's going to start spinning, and it's going to start slow, and the hotter the stove is, basically the faster it's going to spin. And as the stove, you know, cools down again, you'll see the revolutions will slow down again. So you can kind of glance at it just from across the room. Not again that I can get very far from my wood stove in the first place, but you could glance at the top of your wood stove and see how fast your fan blade is spinning and have a pretty good idea if your fire is dying down or not, if you need to add more wood. So it's a cool little device. I think the guy who invented it was, you know, like, I don't know, 150 years ago or something, but it's quite the little piece of kind of old technology, and it's great that it works with just the heat generated by the stove and doesn't require any other electricity. So if you're off-grid for sure, or have limited electricity, or just don't want to run a fan, you know, a lot of wood stoves have a blower fan kind of built in to circulate the air if you don't want to, and most of those take electricity if you don't want to do that. This can be a really great option, especially because it's so quiet. If I'm quiet here for a minute, you'll probably hear the raindrops on the roof, but you won't hear this fan. I mean, I'm sitting right beside it. Obviously, I can only get, I mean, my house is 24 feet long and the stove's about in the middle, so the most I can get is like 11 feet away from it. But it is whisper quiet. You cannot hear it other than maybe a faint, you know, blowing air sound, especially when it gets to cranking really fast. You can't hear it. So it's not noisy, obnoxious, clackety, clangy, blowy, any of those noises. So it's really nice. So if you need a fan like that for your wood stove, like I said, I'll link to this one down below, and they do have other sizes, but I really like it. It's something most people that live off-grid that I know of, I guess, and I did grow up around a lot of Amish and people like that, almost everybody's got a fan like this. So just something to check out and to answer the questions that people ask me what that was and how it works. Thanks for watching, folks. If you're interested in more info on my off-grid tiny house life, check out some of my other videos here. And if you like what you're seeing, click the little picture of my house to subscribe, and then hit the little bell so YouTube actually notifies you every time there's a new video available. See y'all next time.